You wake in the forest, the ground damp beneath you, the smell of wet earth rising like incense. The night is alive with sounds, crickets clicking in the underbrush, a distant jackal's cry, the soft rustle of leaves stirred by the wind. Beside you sits a man, thin, sharp-boned, his ribs visible through his skin. His eyes are half closed, his breathing slow. He has given up palaces, pleasures, even food. Yet there is no desperation in him, only a stillness that feels larger than the forest itself. He does not look at you, but you feel his presence like fire nearby, warm, steady, impossible to ignore. This man is Siddhartha. By morning, he will become something else. But for now, you sit with him under the wide, sprawling branches of the Bodhi tree and wait for the night to unfold. The longer you look at him, the more you feel something strange. This man is not broken. His spine is straight, his head lifted, his breathing calm. Though he looks like he has been hollowed out, there is no desperation in him, no clawing at salvation, no restless muttering of chants. He is still, utterly still, as though he belongs to some deeper rhythm than the one that drives the restless forest. You only know that you are here, sitting in the dirt beside a man who has given up more than you can imagine, and that something about his presence unsettles you. The silence thickens between you, broken only by the wind and the groan of branches overhead. Then, without opening his eyes, Siddhartha speaks. His voice is low, steady, almost weightless, as if it comes not from his throat, but from the air itself. You have walked far to come here, he says. You do not remember walking. You do not remember why you are here. But his words pull something from inside you, an ache, a weariness you had almost forgotten to notice, the kind of tiredness that does not live in the bones, but in the heart. Yes, you whisper, though the word feels uncertain on your tongue. He tilts his head slightly, eyes still closed, and for a long moment he does not speak again. You wonder if he has drifted back into meditation. But then, softly, almost like he's asking himself, he says, "And what do you seek?" The question hangs in the night air. You want to answer quickly, to sound wise, but the truth catches you. What do you seek? Relief from the constant churn of thought? An end to the loneliness that follows you even into crowds? The quiet terror of time slipping too quickly, of days wasted, of desires never fulfilled? Your throat tightens. You cannot put it into words. Siddhartha opens his eyes then. They are dark but not empty. They carry a stillness that is unsettling, as though he sees something you cannot. His gaze is not sharp, not piercing. It is softer than that, yet it holds you completely, the way the earth holds water. You think peace is something to be found outside yourself, but it is here. He touches his chest with the tip of his finger, and here he presses the ground. You follow his gesture, looking at the dirt, the tangled roots, the damp leaves sticking to your skin. It is hard to imagine peace in this place. He seems to read your doubt. His mouth curves into the faintest smile, not of superiority, but of recognition. I once believed peace was in silk cushions and golden halls, he says. His voice carries you somewhere beyond the forest. I thought it was in music and wine, in servants and dancers, in the soft laughter of my wife and the weight of my son in my arms. Then I thought it was in the desert wind, in fasting, in tearing the flesh until the mind grew sharp with hunger. His fingers tighten briefly on his knees. His ribs rise and fall with a long, steady breath. Neither was true. Too much pleasure blinds. Too much pain blinds. The way forward lies in neither extreme. His words settle into you like seeds dropped into soil. You do not fully understand, but they echo. Neither extreme. The way forward. The forest shifts again. The cry of a bird overhead, a rustle of creatures returning to their nests. A faint light creaks across the horizon, silvering the edges of the leaves. Your stomach growls quietly, betraying you. Hunger, always hunger. A reminder that the body has its demands and the forest does not feed easily. You wonder what Siddhartha eats, how he survives on so little. He has the look of someone who has not known satisfaction for years. And yet, unlike you, he does not complain. Almost as if he hears the thoughts rising in you, Siddhartha says, "Pain is not the enemy. Comfort is not salvation. The middle path is like the strings of a lute, too tight and they snap, too loose and they will not play. Only in balance can there be music." His hand rests lightly on his knee, palm open, as if even his body demonstrates the principle he speaks. You sit in silence, hearing the words echo. A lute string, balance, music. You think of your own life, of the way you swing between exhaustion and indulgence, of endless work and frantic distractions, of moments when you starve yourself of rest, then collapse into hours of emptiness, of chasing money, chasing approval, chasing pleasure, chasing everything until it all feels hollow. The forest air grows thicker, and for a moment it feels as though Siddhartha is not speaking of himself at all. He is speaking of you. The first faint blush of dawn creeps over the horizon, painting the edges of the Bodhi tree in pale light. The vast branches stretch outward, leaves trembling in the early breeze, sheltering you both like a vast green cathedral. You look at Siddhartha again, his thin frame, his hollow cheeks, his eyes now closed once more, and realize he is waiting, not for food, not for wealth, not for recognition, waiting for something else, something hidden, something eternal. And in that moment, you feel it too, the waiting, the possibility, the sense that by morning everything you thought you knew about suffering, about desire, about yourself might be turned inside out. The silence before dawn deepens. You shift on the hard ground, pulling the cloth tighter around your shoulders, and prepare to wait with him. The forest grows paler as night slides into dawn. The shadows shift, stretching long and thin across the ground as the first hints of light pierce the canopy. A bird calls once, twice, its voice sharp against the heavy silence, and then the air stirs with the chorus of waking creatures. The earth is damp beneath you, the roots pressing deeper into your flesh. You shiver not only from the coolness of the morning, but from the weight of something heavier, an unease that has been stirring since you first sat here. Siddhartha's eyes remain closed, yet his voice rises again, low and steady, as though the forest itself speaks through him. You feel it, don't you? You turn, startled, though you know he isn't asking about the cold. He doesn't wait for your answer. Suffering, that quiet ache beneath every breath, it does not vanish with sleep or food or laughter. It waits, always. His words settle into the spaces between the bird calls and rustling leaves, filling the gaps with their weight. You swallow, suddenly aware of your own discomfort, the stiffness in your back, the gnaw of hunger in your belly, the raw soreness in your throat. But it isn't only the body he is speaking of. You know it the way you know an old scar, pain that lives beyond flesh. He opens his eyes, and for the first time they meet yours fully. Dark, calm, unblinking. This is the first truth, he says. Life is dukkha. Life is unsatisfactory. Even when it tastes sweet, it does not last. Even when it comforts, it slips away. You feel a flicker of resistance, almost indignation. Is that all life is? Suffering? What of joy? What of love? Siddhartha seems to hear the protest in your silence. His gaze softens, and he speaks as though answering the question you did not voice. Have you not noticed? The sweetness fades before we have swallowed it. The laughter ends before we have finished breathing it in. The body betrays us. The people we love grow old, grow ill, disappear into the fire of death. Even in the palace, with dancers in gold, I felt it, this ache that no silk could hide. This is the truth no one wishes to face. His words strike something deep in you. You think of your own world, the endless striving, the hidden bruises beneath smiles. You think of the man who works himself into the night, believing the next promotion will quiet the restlessness gnawing at his chest. Of the woman scrolling endlessly through her glowing screen, chasing an image of beauty, of belonging, of enoughness, yet finding herself emptier with every swipe. You think of the way you wake some mornings already tired, already anxious, as though the day has defeated you before it has begun. And you know he is right. Even your joys are threaded with fear, that they will not last, that something will come to snatch them away. Siddhartha's voice deepens. To be born is to suffer. To age is to suffer. To fall ill is to suffer. To die is to suffer. And in between, there is the suffering of wanting what will not come, of losing what will not stay, of holding what will not keep. His words ripple outward, and the forest seems to nod in agreement. The call of the birds, the rustle of leaves, the faint creak of the Bodhi tree, all of it becomes a chorus whispering, "Yes, this too will pass." You lower your gaze, staring at your hands resting on your knees. They tremble slightly, though you cannot say if it is from the chill or from something inside you breaking open. Siddhartha leans forward, just enough that his shadow brushes yours. Look closely at your life. What is it you chase? You hesitate. Then almost unwillingly you admit, peace, belonging, to feel enough. His eyes do not waver. And when you chase them, do they stay? You want to lie. You want to say yes, but your mouth stays still. He nods gently, as if your silence is the truest answer of all. The forest brightens as the sun finally breaches the horizon, spilling golden light through the Bodhi tree's wide branches. The warmth grazes your skin, chasing away the damp chill, yet the heaviness inside remains. Siddhartha closes his eyes again, breathing slow and deep, as though the very act of breathing is prayer. When I was young, sheltered in palaces, I was hidden from sickness, hidden from death. But the world finds its way in. A bent old man, a body racked with fever, a corpse carried on a pyre. These sights did not curse me. They freed me from illusion. They showed me the truth that no wealth can bury, that nothing we cling to escapes dukkha. You picture it, the prince in silk confronted by the trembling body of age, the pale face of death. You can almost feel his breath catching in his chest as the truth dawned. And you realize you too have seen it. You too have been haunted by it. The hospital rooms with their antiseptic air, the phone calls in the night, the photographs of faces younger than they will ever be again. You think of all the times you told yourself, this is life, this is normal, but deep down you felt the same unease Siddhartha names. The first noble truth is not new. It is simply spoken aloud, without disguise. The air grows warmer as the sun climbs higher, gilding the edges of the leaves, painting the earth with dappled light. A breeze stirs, carrying the faint sweetness of blooming jasmine. Somewhere far off a cow lows, and the world feels both ordinary and unbearably fragile. Siddhartha speaks again, softer now, like the closing of a wound. To see suffering is not despair. It is the beginning of wisdom. When you know the ground is uneven, you step more carefully. When you know the fire burns, you do not thrust your hand in blindly. To see dukkha is to see clearly. Only from there can the path begin. You exhale slowly, the weight in your chest loosening, not because the suffering is gone, but because for the first time you see it not as failure, but as truth. The forest quiets again. For a while you sit in stillness beside him, the two of you breathing in rhythm with the rustling of the Bodhi tree. And for the first time, the ache feels less like a curse and more like a doorway. The sun climbs slowly, spilling light across the forest floor in shifting patterns of gold and green. The night chill has loosened, but the air is still heavy with dampness, and your skin feels sticky beneath your robe. Insects buzz lazily now, no longer frantic, circling the air with the persistence of thoughts that refuse to leave. Beside you, Siddhartha remains still, his breath steady, his spine unbending. He is like the Bodhi tree itself, rooted, unmoving, sheltering, yet quietly alive. When he speaks, it is not sudden, but gradual, as though his words rise with the warmth of the day. You understand now, he says softly, that life is woven with suffering. But tell me, do you know its root? You hesitate. The ache is familiar, but where does it begin? Illness, death, the cruelty of others, the world itself? I don't know, you admit. His eyes open again,
dark and clear, and he studies you as one might study the ripples on water. Suffering, he says, is born from thirst, from craving, from clinging to what cannot be held. You frown. Thirst. It seems too small a word for so vast a weight. But he continues, there is the craving for pleasure, the thirst that never ends, sweet food, soft touch, the intoxication of power. There is the craving for existence, the desperate grasping to continue, to be more, to secure ourselves against the tide of time. And there is the craving for non-existence, the wish to escape, to erase, to fall into nothingness and silence. His voice falls into the spaces of the forest, and the words take root in you like seeds pressing through soil. You think of the endless ways craving twists through your own life. The man who works himself until his hands tremble, believing wealth will quiet his fears, only to discover the hunger grows sharper with each coin he gathers. The woman who binds herself in beauty, chasing admiration until the mirror becomes a prison. The student who burns through nights and days, desperate to prove their worth, only to collapse under the weight of never being enough. And then there is you, the cravings that tug at your days, sometimes small as the itch of sugar on your tongue, sometimes vast as the longing for love that will not fade, for safety in a world that never guarantees it. The more you think, the more it is everywhere, woven into every choice, every thought, every restless dream. Siddhartha tilts his head as if watching your realization bloom. He says, when I left my palace, I believed suffering came from the world, from sickness, from age, from death itself. But I have seen it more clearly. The wound lies in our grasping. We clutch at what slips through our fingers. We build walls against what will come. We burn with wanting, and when the fire consumes us, we ask who lit the flame. A breeze stirs, scattering dry leaves across the ground. One lands on your knee, trembling with the faintest movement, and then the wind carries it away again. You watch it vanish into the undergrowth, and the image sticks in your mind, how you might have reached to catch it, to hold it, though it was never meant to stay. Siddhartha's gaze follows yours. He says, like leaves, we reach for them as they fall, but craving is endless. Even when we hold one leaf, we want another and another. We are never satisfied. His words are not condemnation, but simple observation, and somehow that makes them sharper. You feel your heart squeeze in your chest. You remember the thrill of buying something new, the shoes you convinced yourself would finally make you feel confident. For a moment they did, but the feeling faded, and soon you were scrolling again, hunting for the next thing. You remember the early days of love, nights alive with laughter, with touch, with promises whispered as though they could bind time. And then the creeping anxiety. Will this last? Will they leave? Am I enough? The joy curdled into fear, and the craving for love became a prison of insecurity. The forest presses close around you, heavy with its own cycle of hunger and grasping. The ants devour the fallen fruit. The birds fight for insects mid-air. Even here, craving pulses in every living thing. Siddhartha draws a breath, deep and even. Craving is the chain that binds us to suffering. It is the wheel that turns and turns, carrying us through birth and death, never resting. A man who thirsts may drink, but his mouth dries again. So it is with desire. No matter how much we take, we return to emptiness. The words dig deep, unsettling something you have tried to bury. You see yourself in that wheel, spinning between hope and disappointment, between the rush of desire and the ache of its loss. You see the nights you lay awake, mind clawing for answers, for certainty, for control that never came. Your chest tightens, and you want to argue, to insist that desire is not always wrong, that love is beautiful, that ambition drives progress, that pleasure is part of life. And perhaps he hears that thought too, for he lifts his gaze toward the branches above and says, "Desire is not the same as love. Attachment is not the same as living. A flower may be admired, but if you clutch it too tightly, it dies in your hand. Craving is not love, it is fear of losing." The words stop you. You sit in silence, tasting them, letting them dissolve on your tongue like bitter medicine that slowly warms into relief. The forest hums around you, the whine of insects, the flutter of wings. A faint smell of smoke drifts through the air, perhaps from a distant cooking fire. The world continues in its ceaseless rhythm of hunger and satisfaction, yet something in you feels different, as though a crack has opened in the pattern. Siddhartha closes his eyes again, retreating into stillness, but his last words linger between you. Do not mistake craving for life. To cling is to drown. To see the cause of suffering is to begin loosening the chain. You sit beside him, watching the light shift through the branches, watching shadows move like water across the ground, and feel a strange mixture of dread and relief. Dread, because you see how much of your life has been bound to this craving. Relief, because perhaps, just perhaps, there is another way. And as the wind shakes the branches of the Bodhi tree, scattering leaves that fall and vanish into the soil, you wonder if you too could learn to let go.
The morning has settled fully now. The forest glows with a soft radiance, the sun filtering down through the wide canopy of the Bodhi tree. Golden shafts of light strike the damp ground, making the mist look like smoke rising from the earth. The sounds of life are everywhere. The chatter of birds, the creak of branches, the faint splash of a river somewhere beyond the trees. Yet, despite the brightness, you feel the shadow of Siddhartha's words pressing on you. Craving is the chain, clinging is the wound. You sit in silence, chewing on the truth, until he speaks again, his voice smooth as water over stone. "There is good news," he says. You turn to him, startled. His eyes are open, and in their dark stillness there is something lighter than before,
though not unearthly. Suffering has an end, he continues. The fire of thirst can be put out, not by drowning it with more desire, not by running from it into emptiness, but by letting it burn itself away. This is the third truth. He pauses, letting the air hold his words. It is possible to be free. The phrase settles into you like a breath you didn't know you were holding. Free. But free from what? Free from the world? From life? From yourself? Your confusion must be visible, because Siddhartha's mouth curves into the faintest smile. Many think freedom is escape. They imagine it as fleeing the world, fleeing pain, fleeing death. But true freedom is not running away. It is seeing clearly. It is loosening the hand that clutches until the fingers open and the heart rests. He lifts his hand, uncurling his long, thin fingers in a slow motion. The gesture is so simple, yet your breath catches as though you are watching a great truth unfold. This is nirvana, he says, not fire extinguished into nothing, but fire no longer consuming. The flame that once devoured is now still, cool, at peace. The forest hums around you, but it feels different now, as though the very air has thinned. You close your eyes, trying to imagine it, existence without clinging, without the endless grasping, without the constant ache of more, more, more. And yet, you struggle. What does it feel like, you ask quietly, surprising yourself? To be free. Siddhartha studies you for a long moment, as though weighing how much you are ready to hear. His gaze is kind, though unflinching. It is not something to be told, he says at last. It must be seen. But imagine this. You are caught in a storm, wind and rain tearing at you, lightning cracking above. You run, you hide, you fight against it, but the storm follows you. And then you realize you do not need to run. You stand, you breathe, you see the storm for what it is, and though it rages, it cannot touch the place within you that is still. Your chest tightens. The image is so clear, you can almost feel the rain on your skin, the thunder shaking your bones, and then the stillness beneath it all, untouched. He leans closer, his voice dropping low, almost a whisper. What would you give up if peace was certain? What would you lay down if freedom was here, now? The question pierces you. You think of the cravings that bind you, the constant search for approval, the endless scrolling through the glowing screen, the gnawing hunger for security in a world that never guarantees it. You think of how much you have clutched at and how little has stayed. You swallow. I don't know if I could let it go, you admit. Siddhartha's smile is small but real. Few can. That is why the path must be walked step by step. But know this, freedom is not somewhere else. It is not in the next possession, the next lover, the next achievement. It is already here. It waits beneath the craving, like clear water beneath mud. When the mud settles, the water shows itself. He closes his eyes again, falling back into stillness, as if even speaking of freedom is only a shadow of its truth. You sit quietly, your thoughts a storm, and try to feel the water beneath. The forest seems to breathe with you, the sway of the Bodhi tree, the hum of insects, the sigh of wind in the leaves, and for the briefest of moments you glimpse it, not a vision, not a miracle, but a space inside yourself that is not clinging, not aching, simply watching. It slips away almost as soon as you notice it, but the taste lingers, like the echo of sweetness on your tongue. You open your eyes again. The sun has risen higher now, the forest alive with movement. Somewhere nearby, a monkey screeches, chasing another through the branches. The world has not changed. Hunger, desire, and struggle remain everywhere. And yet, you know now that there is another way of seeing. Siddhartha has gone still once more, but his earlier words remain between you like a lamp burning low. Suffering has an end. Nirvana is possible. And though you do not yet understand it, something inside you has shifted.
The sun is higher now, pouring warm light across the forest floor. Dewdrops shimmer on blades of grass, sparkling like tiny gems. The air is alive with sound, birdsong, the low hum of bees, the distant call of some unseen animal. Yet here, beneath the Bodhi tree, there is a circle of stillness, as though the world holds its breath around Siddhartha. He shifts slightly, straightening his spine, and opens his eyes once more. You notice they are not weary, not burdened, but calm, like deep water, unmoved by the ripples at its surface. You have heard the truth of suffering, he begins. You have seen its root in craving. You have glimpsed its end in nirvana. Now you must hear the way. His words sink into you like stones dropped into a pond. The way. Your chest tightens. This is what you've been waiting for. Not just description, but direction. Not just the knowledge that peace exists, but the steps to reach it. Siddhartha looks beyond you, as if speaking not only to you, but to the forest itself, to the world that will someday carry his voice. There is a path, he says. It is like a road winding through a dense thicket. Dangerous roots lie hidden beneath the leaves. Thorns catch the skin. Shadows confuse the eyes. To walk without guidance is to wander in circles, to stumble, to bleed. But if you walk with care, with clarity, with balance, step by step, you will find your way through. His hands fold together in his lap, his body swaying slightly with the rhythm of his voice. This path is not one thing, but 8. 8 ways of walking, 8 disciplines that weave together. Like the strands of a rope, none is strong alone, but together they carry you across the flood. You lean forward, breath shallow, as he begins to name them. To see the world as it is, he says, not as your fear paints it, nor your desire distorts it. Imagine a traveler crossing a forest at night. If he mistakes fireflies for stars, he will lose his way.
If he mistakes a stump for a tiger, he will be filled with fear. Right view is the lamp in the darkness. It is the seeing that does not cling to illusions. His gaze shifts to you. Tell me, what do you mistake for stars? The question strikes like an arrow. You think of all the false lights you've chased, success dressed as happiness, possessions dressed as security, attention dressed as love. You swallow and answer quietly, too many. Siddhartha only nods, as if your honesty is more important than any single reply. The lamp is not enough, he continues. You must also choose where you walk. Right intention is the seed of the heart. Do you walk for harm or for healing? Do you act from anger or from compassion? Like a bow pulled taut, intention aims every arrow of your life. Bend it wrongly, and no matter how sharp the arrow, it will strike astray. His words remind you of quarrels you've had. Times you were technically right, but driven by spite. The memory stings. He touches his lips gently. Words are arrows too. They pierce, they wound, they heal. Right speech is to refrain from lies, from harshness, from poison disguised as humor. It is not silence, but speech rooted in kindness. Even one word can tilt the heart of another. Do not forget this. You recall the last harsh word you spoke to someone you love, how it lingered far longer than you intended. Shame prickles at your skin. Not only words, but deeds, he says. Right action is the hand guided by compassion. To refrain from taking life, from stealing, from misuse of the body. Each action leaves a trace like footprints in soft earth. Walk gently, for the earth remembers. Your gaze drifts to your own hands. How many times have they grasped selfishly, acted without care? The thought makes your chest ache.
Even the work by which you sustain yourself is part of the path, Siddhartha continues. Right livelihood is to live without causing harm, to choose a trade that does not breed suffering for others. Just as a tree must draw clean water to bear sweet fruit, so must your life draw from clean labor if it is to yield peace. The image strikes you. You picture the endless churn of industries, screens, and transactions that drive your world. How many are built upon suffering unseen? Peace is not won by chance, he says, voice firm now, cutting through the quiet. Right effort is the steady tending of the mind, to abandon what is harmful, to nurture what is wholesome, to guard what is good so it does not wither. Imagine a farmer's field. If he leaves it untended, weeds grow. If he works with care, the soil bears grain. Your mind is the same. His words settle heavily on you. The thought of tending to your own mind, patiently, like soil, it feels daunting, but possible. Now Siddhartha closes his eyes briefly, inhaling deeply, before speaking again. Right mindfulness is to be fully present in each step, each breath, each act, to taste your food as you eat it, to listen when someone speaks without wandering into tomorrow, to feel the air in your lungs and know, this moment is enough. Mindfulness is the thread that binds the path together.
You take a breath, slow and deep. The forest floods into your senses, the sweetness of damp earth, the rustle of leaves, the warmth of sunlight on your skin. For a moment, you feel alive in a way that surprises you. Finally, Siddhartha's gaze turns inward, as though he sees into a space far deeper than the forest around him. Right concentration is the stilling of the mind, the deep meditation that gathers the scattered winds of thought into one clear flame. It is here the heart finds direct knowledge, not through words, not through teachings, but through seeing for itself. This is the root from which wisdom flowers.
The words of the path still echo in your chest like the lingering toll of a temple bell. Yet, as silence falls beneath the Bodhi tree, a new unease begins to grow inside you. It is strange. You had thought that hearing the way to peace would lift every burden, that the fire of suffering would be quenched at once. Instead, you feel a tremor of fear, like a traveler staring down a vast mountain road, wondering if his legs can carry him. The forest is still, save for the restless stirrings of your own heart. A crow caws harshly from a branch, breaking the quiet. Its cry seems to mock you. Can you truly walk this way? Siddhartha remains serene, his posture unmoved. But your breath has grown shallow, your thoughts race. 8 steps, 8 disciplines. Each one sounds noble, even beautiful. But how could you, tangled in daily life, in your longings, your angers, your mistakes, ever live them fully? From the corner of your eye, you notice a shimmer among the trees, as though the sunlight bends unnaturally. The air thickens. A presence stirs. A voice slithers into your mind, though no lips speak it. It is too much, too heavy. Better to chase what you know, warmth, comfort, desire. Why throw it all away for a path of restraint? The hairs on your arms rise. You know this voice. It is not Siddhartha's. It is older, more cunning. The same whisper that drove men to war, women to betray, kings to clutch at gold, Mara, the tempter. The voice grows stronger. You will fail, you will starve your joys, chain your heart, and still you will die. Why not take the fruit that hangs before you instead of chasing mirages? Images flash in your mind, a feast overflowing with meats and honey, the embrace of a lover in candlelight, gold stacked higher than your reach. Your body reacts, mouth watering, skin aching with longing. You close your eyes tightly, fighting the flood. Then you feel it, Siddhartha's gaze upon you. He has not spoken, not moved, yet his calmness radiates like a cool wind against your fevered mind. Slowly, you open your eyes to meet his. You hear voices, he says quietly, though you never uttered a word. So did I, beneath this tree. Your breath catches. How did you silence them? He shook his head. I did not silence them. I saw them. I saw their tricks, the masks they wear, the promises they cannot keep. Temptation says, you will be happy if, but happiness that depends on grasping is already cracked, already broken. His words cut through the fog like a blade. Still your heart pounds. But Master, you protest, what if I am not strong enough? What if I fail at the path? Siddhartha leans forward, his voice dropping low, steady as a river. Fear is only a mirror. It shows you the image of failure before you have even taken the first step. But tell me, when a child learns to walk, does he fall? And does he rise again? You nod silently. Then why should you be different? Each stumble is part of walking. The path does not demand perfection, only persistence. His eyes soften. Do you understand? The greatest failure is not falling. It is refusing to rise. Something loosens in your chest. His words sink deep, though doubt still lingers like smoke after fire. From deeper in the forest, you hear the rustle of footsteps. Voices, low, hesitant, draw closer. Turning, you see them, a small group of wanderers, thin and ragged, their eyes sharp with hunger. They stop at the sight of Siddhartha, unsure whether to approach. One, older and gaunt, steps forward, his ribs showing through his skin. Are you the ascetic Gautama? He asks, voice cracked from thirst. I was, but that name belongs to one who starved himself chasing illusions. Now I am awake. The men glance at each other uneasily. The eldest narrows his eyes. They say you turned from austerity, that you ate food offered by a village girl, that you broke your vows. There is accusation in his tone, but Siddhartha does not flinch. I broke no truth. I left behind excess both of indulgence and of torment. The middle way is balance, not chains, not gluttony. The others murmur, some doubtful, some intrigued. You see yourself mirrored in them, skeptical, afraid to let go of the old rules. One scoffs, balance? Is that not weakness? Siddhartha's voice remains steady. Is a lute strong when its string is wound too tight? Is it strong when it hangs loose? only in balance does it sing. The words ripple through the air. Even the doubtful man falters, lips parting as if struck by a hidden truth. But inside you, the struggle rages. The path is clear, but the shadows are heavy. You feel the tug of Mara's whisper still. Stay where you are. The world is too cruel. Better to cling to your scraps of comfort than to walk into the unknown. And against it, Siddhartha's calm strength. Each step walked rightly is freedom already. The forest waits. The disciples watch. Your own breath trembles in your throat. You realize that no one, neither Siddhartha, nor Mara, nor the world itself, can walk the path for you. It is your choice alone. Night begins to fall, the forest dimming into shades of violet and blue. The cicadas awaken, their chorus rising like the crackle of unseen fire. You remain by the Bodhi tree, eyes closed, listening to the symphony of sound and silence. Within you, the battle softens, not because the doubts vanish, but because you begin to see them for what they are, shadows on water, fleeting. Siddhartha's voice floats gently in the dark. Do not fear your doubts. To question is not to betray the path. To question is to walk it. Only the dead do not doubt. The living must wrestle, and through that wrestling, awaken. His words fall over you like cool rain, and as the night deepens, you take a breath, slow, steady, and feel it, the faintest stirring of resolve. Not certainty, not triumph, but the courage to try.
The forest is wrapped in night, yet not in silence. Cicadas hum in steady rhythm, frogs croak from hidden ponds, and an owl glides overhead, silent wings brushing the starlight. You sit beneath the Bodhi tree with Siddhartha, the cool earth beneath your palms, the scent of damp leaves rising as the air chills. Around you, the wanderers linger. Their forms are gaunt outlines in the dim glow of a fire they've kindled, its flames crackling and casting restless shadows upon the trees. They have not left. Something in Siddhartha's words has tethered them here, though whether in curiosity or doubt, you cannot yet tell. You watch their eyes, hollowed by hunger, sharpened by years of austerity. You see yourself mirrored in them, fragile and restless, clinging to the known. One of them breaks the silence. The eldest ascetic, his bones like sticks beneath his skin, leans forward into the firelight. His voice is hoarse but steady. "Gautama," he says, refusing the new title, Awakened One. "We have given up homes, families, and flesh itself for the sake of truth, yet you would have us eat, walk in balance, live without torment. Tell me, why should we believe this is not simply weakness disguised as wisdom?" The fire pops, a spark leaping into the night. Siddhartha's gaze rests upon him, calm but piercing. Do you call the tree weak because it bends in the storm? Do you call the river weak because it flows around the stone? Weakness is clinging to what cannot hold. Strength is letting go. The man bristles, his jaw tightening, yet his eyes flicker. You sense the words strike deeper than he wishes to admit. Another voice rises, younger, trembling. If the middle way is truth, then what becomes of the rules we've followed, the fasts, the scourging of flesh, the vows of silence? Were they in vain? Siddhartha shakes his head gently. They were not in vain. They brought you here, to the edge of awakening, but they are not the crossing. The raft that carries you across the river must be left behind when you reach the shore. The younger man lowers his gaze, uncertain, but something shifts in his posture, less rigid, less locked in fear. As the night deepens, Siddhartha begins to speak, not in booming declarations, but in a tone that flows like water across stone. He speaks of the Four Noble Truths, of suffering and its cause, of release and the way. You listen as the firelight flickers across his face. His words are simple, yet they land with the weight of mountains. Each truth is not a doctrine, but a mirror. You see your own hunger, your own cravings reflected in them. At first, the ascetics resist. They interrupt, question, scoff. But with each answer, Siddhartha dismantles their doubts, not by force, but by clarity. One by one their voices soften. The fire that had burned with skepticism now glows with something else, the faint warmth of understanding. By dawn, two of them have stepped forward, kneeling in the pale light of morning. Their foreheads touch the earth. "Teach us," they whisper. "We wish to walk this way." A swell of emotion rises within you as you witness it, the first disciples bowing, offering their lives to this new path. Yet even as joy stirs in your chest, so too does unease. You think of your family, your home, the bonds you still carry in your heart. Can you leave them behind? Can you truly surrender to this life of wandering, of discipline, of endless questioning? Mara's whisper returns, sly and insidious. You will lose everything. Better to stay at the edge than to plunge into the abyss. Your hands tighten into fists. The path glimmers before you, yet your feet feel rooted in place. Siddhartha glances at you, as if sensing the storm in your heart. His voice is quiet, meant for you alone. No one is asked to leap before they are ready. Even the lotus opens petal by petal. Trust the unfolding. The words do not erase your fear, but they give it space to breathe. And in that space, courage begins to flicker. The following days blur into a rhythm of dawn and dusk. More wanderers arrive, drawn by whispers in the villages of a man who has found release from suffering. Some come in arrogance, eager to test him. Others come desperate, hollowed out by years of fruitless searching. Siddhartha greets each with the same steady calm. He does not demand belief. He does not curse those who walk away. He offers the path as one might offer water from a spring, freely, without clinging. And slowly, the circle beneath the Bodhi tree grows. You see transformations unfold before your eyes.
Men who once boasted of their austerities now speak with gentleness. Women who arrived with sorrow etched in their faces begin to laugh again, softly, as though rediscovering forgotten joy. At night, as you lie upon the earth, gazing at the stars through the canopy, you feel the weight of history pressing close. Something is beginning here, something fragile, yet immense. Yet not all accept. One evening, as the fire burns low, the eldest ascetic rises abruptly. His eyes are sharp, filled with anger that has been simmering since the first night. "You claim balance," he says, pointing a bony finger at Siddhartha. "But balance is compromise. I sought purity. I sought conquest of flesh. And you," his voice cracks, "you tempt men from their vows with promises of ease." The others murmur uneasily. The man's words carry weight. His years of discipline command respect. Siddhartha does not raise his voice. "I promise no ease," he says. "The middle way is not indulgence. It is harder than denial, for it demands presence in every breath, not the rejection of life, but its full seeing." The ascetic sneers. Empty words. He turns, storming into the dark forest, his figure swallowed by shadows. A hush falls. The disciples exchange uncertain glances. You feel the tremor of doubt ripple through them and through yourself. What if the old man was right? What if this path is a trick of comfort, a softer cage than the one you left? The next day, Siddhartha leads you and the remaining disciples to a river nearby. Its waters glisten under the morning sun, flowing steadily between moss-covered stones. He kneels at the edge, letting the water run through his fingers. "Do you see?" he asks softly. "The river moves without clinging. It flows around obstacles, never resisting, never forcing. Yet it carves valleys, it shapes mountains. That is the strength of balance." You close your eyes, listening. For the first time you feel it, not as an idea, but as a pulse in your own chest. A glimpse of the path, not as burden, but as freedom. The doubt remains, yes, but now it is joined by something new. Trust.
The forest has grown familiar. The hush of the Bodhi tree, the rhythm of river and bird call, the nightly glow of the disciples gathered around Siddhartha. But the awakened one does not let comfort harden into clinging. One morning, as mist lingers between the trunks, he speaks. "It is not enough to hold truth in silence. The fire must be carried outward. As the lamp lights another, so too must this teaching pass from one to many." The words settle like pebbles in still water. The disciples glance at one another, some eager, others fearful. You too feel your heart quicken. The forest has been a sanctuary. Beyond its shade lie villages, cities, kings with armies, priests with authority. To speak there is to court both hope and danger. At dawn, you leave the Bodhi tree. The earth is cool beneath your feet. Dew clings to your robe, and the rising sun paints the horizon in fire. The group moves as one, a thread of saffron robes winding through the green. The villagers you pass regard you with wary curiosity. Children point. Farmers pause in their fields, hoes resting against their shoulders. Some offer fruit or water. Others turn away, whispering. The scent of wood shroke thickens as you approach the first settlement. The air hums with the calls of traders, the bleating of goats, the chatter of women at the well. You feel the pulse of ordinary life, hungry, hurried, tangled in the web of daily striving. And into this web, Siddhartha steps, calm as still water. Word spreads quickly, a wanderer who speaks of release, who neither begs nor boasts. By evening, a crowd gathers beneath a banyan tree at the edge of the village. Men squat on their haunches, women cluster with children at their hips, elders lean on staffs. Siddhartha stands before them, not elevated, not adorned, only steady. His voice carries, clear and measured. All beings seek happiness, all beings recoil from pain, yet we chase shadows, binding ourselves to what cannot last. Wealth crumbles, beauty fades, power passes like smoke. To cling is to suffer, to let go is to be free. The villagers murmur, some nod, others frown. A potter speaks up, hands still dusted white with clay. If we do not cling, how then do we love? Shall a man not grieve when his wife dies, or a mother not mourn her child? The question hangs heavy. You feel your own breath catch. You too have wondered this. Siddhartha meets the potter's gaze. To love without clinging is not to harden the heart, but to open it wider, to see that grief and joy rise and fall like the wheel of your potter's clay. They do not belong to you, yet they pass through you. Love remains, but the chains of fear and loss fall away. Silence follows, then a ripple of whispers. Some eyes soften with dawning comprehension, others narrow in doubt. Not all are pleased. That night, as the crowd disperses, a man in white robe steps forward. His forehead bears the marks of ritual ash. His voice is sharp, commanding attention. You speak of freedom, wanderer, but you do not speak of the gods. You do not honor the sacrifices, the hymns, the sacred fire. Do you claim to know more than the Vedas, more than the priests who guard the order of the world? The villagers turn, watching closely. You feel your stomach tighten. This is no idle question. A challenge from a Brahmin is dangerous. Siddhartha bows slightly, respectful but unshaken. I do not reject the gods, nor deny the sacred, but tell me, when a man suffers hunger, does it cease because a hymn is sung? When his child dies, does the fire of grief lessen with ritual alone? I speak not against tradition, but beyond it. Truth must be lived, not only recited. The Brahmin's jaw tightens. You would uproot the law that sustains us. The law that sustains us is not fear of gods, but the compassion we bear each other and the clarity with which we see. The crowd stirs. Some bow in gratitude. Others exchange uneasy glances. The Brahmin turns sharply and departs, his robe flashing white against the night. Suspense coils in your chest. Enemies have been made. 2 days later, as you walk the dusty road beyond the village, word arrives that a local king has heard of the awakened one. His men approach, horses snorting, spears glinting, the villagers scatter, fearful. The soldiers encircle our group. Their leader, clad in bronze and crimson, speaks. Our Lord wishes to see this teacher, now. You feel your pulse quicken. A king's favor could spread the teaching far, but a king's wrath could end it before it begins. Siddhartha nods calmly. Lead the way. The journey is tense. Dust rises from the hooves, settling in your throat. The palace looms, stone walls adorned with banners. Inside, the air is heavy with incense and the sharp scent of oil lamps. The king reclines on a carved throne, eyes sharp beneath his jeweled crown. He studies Siddhartha for a long moment, then gestures. Speak. Siddhartha speaks as he always does, steady, unbowed. He tells the king of the middle way, of suffering and release. He does not flatter, he does not plead. The court murmurs. Some laugh softly at the simplicity of his words, but the king listens, leaning forward. At last he says, "If your path is true, what need have I of armies, of wealth, of thrones? Shall I give them up and sit barefoot beside you?" A dangerous question, half mockery, half test. Siddhartha smiles faintly. A king must rule as a potter must shape clay. But if he rules without greed, without cruelty, seeing all beings as his children, then he too walks the path. The throne is not the prison, the clinging is. The hall falls silent. Then slowly the king begins to laugh, not harshly, but with a strange warmth. You are bold, wanderer, bold enough to speak truth before power. Very well, I will not hinder your teaching. My people may listen if they wish. Relief floods you. The fire has spread and survived its first test in the halls of power. That night, you sit with the disciples outside the palace walls, a small fire flickering before you. The stars stretch wide above, indifferent, yet eternal. You whisper to yourself, "This is no longer only his path, it is ours, and it is beginning to burn brighter." Yet in the quiet, you feel Mara's shadow linger at the edge of thought. Every flame draws eyes, and not all who watch will welcome the light.
The days of quiet forest meditation have passed. The Sangha walks roads now, through villages of thatched roofs, past rice fields glimmering in the sun, into bustling towns where merchants haggle and oxen pull carts heavy with goods. Wherever Siddhartha speaks, crowds gather. Wherever he leaves, whispers linger. But as the teaching spreads outward, something begins to stir inward, restlessness. Not all disciples carry the truth with equal steadiness. The path is long. Your feet blister on stone. Dust clings to your robe. The sun burns, the rain soaks, the nights bring mosquitoes and cold earth for a bed. At first, these hardships felt light, beside the joy of awakening. But weeks stretch into months, and you hear murmurs among the companions. "Why must we wander so far?" one grumbles, as he ties his robe tighter against the evening wind. "Have we not learned enough beneath the Bodhi tree? Why chase after villagers who mock us?" Another sighs. The king listened, yes,
but most laugh or doubt. Is this effort not wasted? You too feel the weight of fatigue. The forest sanctuary seems a memory gilded with peace. Now each dawn brings not silence, but the noise of skeptical crowds, jeering youths, or the cold stares of Brahmins who see you as intruders. The fire spreads, but fire consumes. Among the disciples, a quiet rivalry has begun to root take. You notice it one evening when a young farmer approaches to ask a question. Before Siddhartha can answer, one of your companions speaks quickly, eager to display his understanding. Another interrupts, correcting him. Their words clash like stones. Later, by the fire, whispers rise. He favors those who ask many questions. He listens longer to him than to me. Why should he be the one to repeat the teaching? I have followed longer. You feel unease coil in your stomach. This was not the Sangha you first joined, when every disciple sat like a humble bowl before the truth. Now ambition flickers, subtle but sharp. Each wants to be closest to the flame. And Mara, the tempter unseen, surely smiles at this. One night, as the Sangha rests beneath a tree at the roadside, you find yourself unable to sleep. The stars are cold pinpricks overhead, the earth hard beneath your side. You rise and approach Siddhartha, who sits awake, his posture still as stone, his eyes open as though he has not blinked for hours. "Master," you whisper, kneeling beside him, "forgive me, but I must ask. What if doubt grows among us? What if jealousy divides us? Even we who left our homes still carry greed in our hearts. Can we truly spread truth when we are cracked within?" For a moment he does not answer. The silence is heavy. Then he turns, his gaze deep, not stern, but clear as water. "Do you think awakening means never faltering?" he asks softly. You hesitate. "I thought it did." He shakes his head. All beings stumble. Doubt rises, anger flares, jealousy burns. These are not signs of failure, but of the work still before us. To walk the path is not to erase weakness, but to see it, to know it, to hold it without clinging. Even poison, when understood, can become medicine. His words sink into you like rain into dry earth. You bow, breath loosening. Yet still you sense the trials ahead will not vanish so easily. The test comes swiftly. A week later, while the Sangha rests by a broad river, two disciples fall into open argument. One, a former merchant, insists the group must organize more strictly. "We need leaders. Those who understand best should guide the others, else the teaching will scatter like leaves in wind." The other, a farmer's son, snaps back, "Leaders? You mean power. You mean placing yourself above us. Did the Master not say clinging to status is suffering?" Voices rise, others join in. Soon the peaceful camp hums with bitterness, disciples taking sides. You watch with dread as anger flares, sharp as fire. Then Siddhartha rises. He does not shout, he does not scold. He simply steps into the center, raising one hand. The quarrel falters. Silence spreads. He speaks quietly. "Brothers, if a boat is sinking, will you argue over who sits in front, or will you row together?" The words strike like a bell. Heads bow, eyes lower. Shame softens the heat. The quarrel dissolves into uneasy silence. But in your heart, you know, such fractures will return.
The path is not a straight road, but a river winding, eroding, reshaping its banks. That night, as you sit alone at the riverbank, you feel it again, the chill presence that first came beneath the Bodhi tree. Mara. Not in form, but in thought. A whisper, not a voice. Look at them, already divided, already doubting. This Sangha will crumble. Your journey is wasted. You close your eyes, breath quivering. The doubts feel so sharp, so plausible. But then you remember Siddhartha's words. Even poison, when understood, can become medicine. You turn the thought over like a stone in your palm. Yes, the Sangha is flawed. Yes, jealousy gnaws, anger flares, but perhaps this too is the teaching, that truth does not live only in perfect stillness, but must be tested amid imperfection. The whisper fades. The river flows steady in the dark. The next morning, the Sangha gathers the disciples. His eyes rest upon each face, tender yet unyielding. You have quarreled. You have doubted. Good. Let the sickness be seen, that the cure may begin. Do not fear your weakness. See it clearly. To pretend purity is to hide behind shadows. To face the crack is to begin mending. He pauses, then adds, a Sangha is not a chain that binds, but a net that holds. If one knot loosens, the net may fray. But if each knot sees itself, knows itself, the net can hold even the great fish of suffering. You feel his gaze pass over you, and something stirs within, a mixture of shame and strength. Later, as the Sangha sets off once more, the road stretching pale under the rising sun, you walk in silence. The dust is still hot, the path still long, doubt still flickers at the edge of thought. Yet within you, there is also a new steadiness. Perhaps the path is not about escaping weakness, but about walking with it, watching it rise and fall like clouds across the sky. The trials of doubt remain, but so too does the fire. And you realize, as the village rooftops appear in the distance, that this too is part of awakening. To stumble, to quarrel, to question, yet still to walk on.
The road bends toward familiar ground. As the days stretch, you begin to recognize the landscape. Broad fields lined with banyan trees, winding paths trodden by merchants and herdsmen, the faint scent of lotus rising from marshy pools. Your heart stirs. The deer park lies not far now, the place where it all began, where 5 ascetics once turned their backs on Siddhartha and then bowed before his truth, where you, wide-eyed and uncertain, first felt the spark ignite. The disciples murmur among themselves, a mixture of eagerness and unease. Will the 5 receive us? One wonders aloud. They have lived by the Master's word longer than any of us. Will they welcome us or judge us? You share the doubt. In the weeks of travel, quarrels and jealousy had already frayed the Sangha. How would the elders, so severe in their discipline, see you now? The thought weighs as the forest thickens. At last, the trees open into the meadow of the deer park, the same wide clearing, sunlit, scattered with gentle animals grazing in the grass. The air seems calmer here, touched by memory. The 5 ascetics are waiting. Their robes are worn, but their eyes shine with a stillness that makes you lower your gaze. They bow before Siddhartha, not in show, but with quiet reverence. Welcome back, teacher, one says. Your words have spread even beyond these woods. Villagers speak of the Sangha that carries the flame. We did not doubt you would return." Siddhartha bows in return, hands pressed together. "Brothers, I return not alone. These two have walked beside me. They have seen their own weakness, their own strength. Together we carry the truth. The five study you and the others. For a breath you feel their gaze pierce through your fatigue, your hidden envy, your quiet doubts. Then one of them nods. Let the Sangha grow. Relief softens your chest. You kneel, pressing your forehead to the earth. That evening, the Sangha sits together in the meadow. Villagers have gathered, drawn by whispers that the Enlightened One has returned. Men, women, even children crowd the edges of the clearing. The fire crackles. Fireflies blink in the darkening sky. Siddhartha rises. He begins to speak, not with new words, but with the same ones he gave when the five first listened. The Four Noble Truths, the middle path, the ending of suffering. But this time, the words feel larger, heavier. They fall upon dozens of ears, not just five. They ripple outward, through the crowd, through the village, through the world beyond. You watch faces shift, skepticism softening into curiosity, grief loosening into tears, pride cracking into humility. The teaching pierces again and again, like rain soaking parched ground. A farmer wipes his eyes. A mother clutches her child tighter. A youth leans forward, his jaw tight with yearning. The fire spreads. Yet not all faces glow with awe. At the edge of the gathering, you notice men standing with stiff shoulders, arms crossed, their robes finer than the villagers. Brahmins. Their eyes are sharp, their mouths hard lines. They whisper among themselves as Siddhartha speaks, their glances darting, calculating. One mutters loud enough for you to hear. He undermines the sacrifice. He mocks the priests. If this fire grows, what becomes of us? A chill prickles your spine. These men do not come to learn, but to measure, to guard what they fear losing. When the sermon ends, the villagers bow deeply. Some step forward to offer food, cloth, even coins at Siddhartha's feet. But the Brahmins slip away into the dark, their silence heavier than words. You sense danger brewing, like clouds gathering unseen. Later, as the disciples rest, the five elders gather apart with Siddhartha. You draw close enough to hear their low voices. The Sangha grows swiftly, one elder says, too swiftly. The road breeds weariness, the people breed envy. Already quarrels have begun. Another adds, and the priests will not sit silent. They feel their ground slipping. They will resist, perhaps fiercely. Siddhartha listens, eyes lowered, face calm. Then he says, the path was never meant to be easy. Even the Sangha must stumble before it steadies. Let quarrels come. Let priests resist. Truth is not weakened by struggle. It is tested. The elders nod, though their eyes remain grave. You withdraw into the dark, heart unsettled. Tested, yes, but tests can break as well as strengthen. That night you cannot sleep. You sit by the fire, staring into the embers. The meadow lies hushed, save for the soft rustle of deer in the grass. Your mind churns, the jealous quarrels, the Brahmin's hard eyes, the burden of the growing Sangha. Can this fragile flame truly withstand the storm gathering around it? Then you hear footsteps. Siddhartha sits beside you, wordless at first, gazing at the same fire. His presence steadies your breath. At last he speaks. You see the shadows. Yes, you whisper, I fear they will swallow us." He shakes his head gently. "Shadows have no life of their own. They are born only where light shines. Do not curse them. Do not fear them. Walk with them, and they will fade." The fire crackles between you. Slowly you feel the knot inside you loosen. When morning breaks, the meadow glows with dew. Villagers return with baskets of food, eager for more teaching. Children run ahead, laughing, their joy unshadowed. The Sangha rises together. You shoulder your robe, step into the grass, and follow. The deer park feels both beginning and continuation. Here the wheel first turned. Here it turns again, heavier, wider, gathering momentum. You walk, still weary, still uncertain, but the fire within flickers, alive. The trials are not over. The Sangha will be tested again and again. But for now, as the sun climbs, the path shines forward.
It begins one morning with the sound of hooves on the forest path. The disciples look up from their alms bowls as a small procession appears. Horses gleaming, banners fluttering, guards with spears. At their head rides a tall man in embroidered robes, his bearing crisp, his eyes watchful. He dismounts with deliberate grace, his boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. "I am envoy of King Bimbisara of Magadha," he declares, voice carrying across the meadow. "His Majesty has heard of the ascetic Gautama, whose words draw men and women alike. He bids you come to Rajagaha, to stand before him." A hush falls over the Sangha. Some exchange nervous glances, others whisper. You feel your chest tighten. The king of Magadha, his word could protect or crush. Why would he call Siddhartha? Siddhartha bows with calm composure. "Tell your master I will come." The envoy studies him a moment, as if trying to pierce the stillness that seems to shroud him, then nods and signals his men. The hoofbeats fade into the trees. The disciples burst into chatter. Some are thrilled, the king himself. Others are afraid. If he rejects the teaching, we are finished. You sit silent, pulse quick with unease. Power has noticed the flame. What will it do? The road to Rajagaha. The journey south winds through hills and valleys, past villages where word has already spread. Crowds gather at crossroads to glimpse the Sangha. Some bow, some call blessings, some only stare, puzzled. At night, the disciples camp under the stars, yet sleep is restless. What if the king mocks Siddhartha before his court? What if he imprisons him, or worse? You lie awake, watching Siddhartha sit in silent meditation by the fire. He seems untouched by doubt, his face serene, but you cannot quiet your own fears. Rajagaha rises before you, stone walls high and formidable, gates crowded with guards and merchants. The city swirls with noise and color, vendors shouting, ox carts creaking, spices burning, goats bleating, coins clinking. You walk barefoot through the dust, robes plain against the city's finery. People pause to watch, whispering behind their hands. Some laugh, pointing. Others bow, eyes lowered with respect. At last, you pass into the palace compound. Gardens lush with mango and jackfruit, fountains spraying into marble pools. Gold gleams at the gates, and the air carries the heavy scent of jasmine. You feel small, out of place. The king sits upon a carved throne, tall and broad-shouldered, his robes shimmering with threads of silver. Courtiers cluster around him, their faces sharp with curiosity and calculation. "Ascetic Gautama," the king says, voice rich and steady. "They say you turned from wealth and power. They say you walk barefoot, eat what is given, yet kings and beggars alike bend their ears to you. Tell me, what is it you teach?" The hall quiets. Even the flutter of fans pauses. Siddhartha bows, then speaks, not with flowery words, but with the same calm cadence he used with farmers and widows. That all beings suffer, that suffering has a cause, craving and ignorance, that suffering can end, and that there is a path, the middle way. His voice fills the hall, even without rising. Some courtiers smirk, whispering. One sneers. Empty riddles. The priests give offerings. The warriors wield power. What does he give but hunger and dust? The king silences him with a glance, eyes still fixed on Siddhartha. "You speak against craving," Bimbisara says. "But craving builds kingdoms. Men fight, men trade, men labor, all because they crave. Without craving, what remains?" The murmur ripples through the court. It is the question they all carry. Even you lean forward, tense. Siddhartha does not rush to answer. He lets silence stretch until even the courtiers grow uneasy. Then he says, "What craving builds, craving destroys. Desire builds kingdoms, and desire burns them to ash. Desire binds men in chains of gold, and when those chains tighten, they strangle. But there is another fire, not craving, but compassion. When men walk with compassion, they build not for themselves, but for all. That fire does not consume, it warms." The hall is still. Even the sneering courtier lowers his gaze. The king leans back, studying Siddhartha long. His face reveals little, but his eyes gleam with thought. At last, he says, "I cannot turn my kingdom upon compassion alone, but your words are seed, and seed, given time, may grow." He gestures. Servants bring trays of fruit, rice, and golden cloth. "Take these as my offering." Siddhartha bows. The Sangha takes only what is freely given, no more, no less. May the king find peace in giving. As the Sangha withdraws, whispers break out. Some courtiers nod thoughtfully. Others scowl, muttering of danger, of teachings that undermine order. One priest's voice rises as you pass. "This man turns men from sacrifice. If the people abandon us, the gods will curse Magadha." But the king raises a hand. "Leave him, for now he walks not with sword, but with words." You breathe out, realizing you had been holding your breath. That night, the Sangha camps beyond the city gates. The disciples buzz with excitement. The king offered gifts, one says. He listened with respect, another adds. He may yet protect us, whispers a third. But beneath the joy, you sense unease. Some priests had looked ready to spit fire. Not all hearts were moved. Siddhartha sits among you, silent, eyes on the stars. At last he speaks. Power listens only when it must. Today it listened. Tomorrow it may turn. Do not lean on kings. Lean on the path. You feel the weight of his words. Safety may be fleeting. The Sangha must stand even when thrones turn away. Later, as flames crackle low, you sit apart, gazing at the city's glow in the distance. Its towers rise proud, its walls thick, its gates strong. But you remember Siddhartha's words, what craving builds, craving destroys. You picture kingdoms falling, dust over marble, weeds through stone. But compassion, that fire could endure beyond walls, beyond kings. That thought steadies you. Perhaps even if the Sangha is crushed, the seed will live. When dawn gilds the hills, the Sangha prepares to leave. Villagers trail after, eager for more words, more peace. The king does not summon again. The city fades behind you. Ahead stretches the road, dusty, uncertain, yet lit by something stronger than gold. The king's question still rings in your mind, and Siddhartha's answer burns in your heart.
The Sangha returns to wandering, villages greeting them with warmth. Yet as weeks pass, the air shifts. In Rajaha's markets, you overhear merchants whispering. They say the priests curse the ascetic Gautama. He turns people from sacrifice. A Brahmin shouted yesterday that no man finds heaven without fire and blood. But did you see? That widow gave food to Gautama, and her face looked lighter, as though her burden dropped. The people stand divided. For every villager who bows with gratitude, another glances away, fearful of priestly wrath. At night, the Sangha sits in circles, chanting softly, but the rustle of rumors hangs heavy, like smoke that will not clear. One afternoon, beneath a banyan tree where Siddhartha has begun to teach, a man in crimson robe steps forward. His eyes are sharp, his smile thin. I am Sanjaya, teacher of the wandering ascetics, and I say there is no path, no end, no beginning. Men are bound and cannot free themselves. This Gautama speaks false hope. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Some nod nervously, others look to Siddhartha. Siddhartha does not frown or bristle. He simply inclines his head. Then, friend, you teach that suffering is without end? Sanjaya's smile widens. It is so. Men are caught in a wheel that turns without reason. To say otherwise is delusion. Siddhartha is silent for a moment. The crowd leans in. Then he says, quietly but clearly, Imagine a man struck by an arrow. He falls, wounded. But when healers come, he says, do not pull the arrow until I know who shot it, what caste he is, what wood the arrow is made from. Would that man live?
The people chuckle softly, some covering their mouths. Siddhartha's eyes remain on Sanjaya. We are pierced by suffering. To say there is no way out is to leave the arrow where it is. My path is not speculation. It is healing. If a man walks it, he will know. Sanjaya flushes. His voice sharpens. Fine words, but words only. Where is proof? Siddhartha lifts a hand, calm as flowing water. The proof is in walking. Come, friend, walk with us. If the path is false, you will know. If it is true, you will know. But Sanjaya only scowls and stalks away, crimson robes flaring. The villagers whisper. Some nod in awe, others frown, troubled. Days later, as the Sangha begs for alms in a small village, the head priest bars the way. His shaven scalp gleams with sweat, his chest heavy with ornaments. You take food without sacrifice, he roars, blocking the path. The gods grow hungry. Who will feed them if not us? You weaken the people. You sow rebellion against heaven. Siddhartha bows slightly. The gods, if they are just, do not hunger for blood, but the people hunger for peace. That peace I offer. The priest spits on the ground. Peace without sacrifice is a lie. Leave this village, or curses will fall. The disciples hesitate. You grip your begging bowl tighter, heart pounding. Will the villagers turn them away? But then an old woman steps from her hut, carrying rice in trembling hands. I have lost 3 sons to sacrifice, she whispers. Take, holy ones, may no more sons be lost. Others follow, quiet, defiant. The priest shouts, his face red, but the stream of offerings does not stop. As you walk away, the priest's curses ring behind you like stones thrown into the air. That night, as the Sangha rests by the river, some disciples whisper fearfully, "They will gather against us. The priests hold power in every village. They can turn the people. Even kings fear them. What chance have we?" You share their unease. The priest's anger is sharp, dangerous. But Siddhartha sits, unmoving, watching the flames. They fear what they do not yet understand, but fear cannot uproot truth. Walk steady. No harm can touch the one who clings to nothing. His calm is a balm, though not enough to quiet all fear. You lie awake, listening for footsteps in the dark. It happens sooner than expected. The Sangha sleeps, moonlight silver on the grass, when shadows creep into camp. 5 men with clubs and torches, faces painted with ash. A disciple cries out. The Sangha stirs, startled, but Siddhartha only rises slowly, palms open. The men shout, "Leave our villages! You dishonor the gods! Your words turn people from the priests!" They raise clubs. You leap up, heart hammering, but Siddhartha steps forward, his voice firm yet gentle. If my words are false, they will fade. If true, no club can erase them. Strike me if you must, but no, you strike not me, but peace. The men falter, torches wavering. For a moment, silence holds. Then one drops his club, muttering, "He is mad." Another spits, then storms off. Soon only the hiss of torches remains. The men vanish into night. You exhale, shaking. Siddhartha sits once more, as though nothing had happened. The disciples stare at him, wonder in their eyes. Fear still lingers, but beneath it grows something stronger, faith. Later, you sit awake, stars sharp above. The priests will not stop. Rival teachers will return. Danger grows with each step of the Sangha's path. Yet you remember Siddhartha facing the men, unflinching, as if already beyond their reach. And you wonder, is that what freedom looks like? Not safety, but fearlessness. The thought stays with you as sleep finally pulls you under.
The night is quiet beneath the Bodhi tree. The stars overhead seem sharper than they did yesterday, as if the whole sky has been rinsed in clear water. The monks have drifted into silence, some already asleep, some sitting with their backs straight in meditation. The hum of insects blends with the soft rush of the river, and you feel, for the first time in a long while, that you belong in this strange ancient world. The Buddha sits before you, legs folded, hands resting gently on his lap. His eyes, half-lidded, reflect the starlight. He does not need to speak to command attention. Even in stillness, his presence holds more weight than thunder. Then, at last, he turns to you. "Tell me," he says softly, his voice like water sliding over smooth stones, "what have you learned from this day?" You hesitate. For so long you have been listening, absorbing, following his words like a traveler who has stumbled upon a hidden path. But now the mirror turns, and the question lands in your lap like a burden and a gift at once. You search for words. "I have learned," you begin slowly, "that suffering is everywhere, that craving, wanting, makes life heavy." You think of the endless hunger for wealth in your own time, people chasing promotions, bigger houses, faster cars, a ladder with no top rung. You remember the way colleagues competed, not out of joy, but from fear of falling behind. You glance at the Buddha. His face is unreadable, but his silence urges you onward. "I see how we," you stumble over the pronoun, realizing you are speaking both for yourself and for those who will one day hear this story. "Cling to the idea that money will protect us, that if we can just earn enough, save enough, be rich enough, we will finally be safe. But it is never enough. It never ends." The Buddha nods once, almost imperceptibly. You see the wheel, desire chasing desire without rest. You swallow, throat dry. "And then there is recognition," you continue, the words tumbling faster now. "In my world, people crave to be seen, to be noticed. They measure their worth by the attention of others, by numbers, by applause, by the illusion of fame." The memory stings. How many hours have you scrolled, comparing yourself, envying, despairing? How many times did you post something not because it mattered, but because you wanted to be seen? Even I Your voice cracks, surprising you. Even I wanted to be noticed, to prove myself, to be loved by strangers who would forget my name a moment later. The Buddha watches you steadily. His gaze does not condemn. If anything, it softens, as though he sees in you the same boy who once wore silks and jewels and still felt hollow. This is craving too, he says gently, the net of illusion. You press your palms to your knees, grounding yourself in the earth beneath. And relationships, love, I've seen how we cling to others as if they can save us. We hold them tightly, demand they never leave. But people change, they die, they walk away, and then the suffering cuts deeper than anything. The night wind brushes against your face, carrying the faint fragrance of jasmine. The Buddha speaks, his tone neither harsh nor comforting, but clear. To love is natural, but to cling is suffering. When you love, love with freedom, as the lotus blooms in the pond without clutching the water. When you cling, you drown in what you fear to lose. You close your eyes. A memory rises. Someone you once loved, someone who slipped away no matter how you tried to hold them. The ache that lingered for years. You had thought it was the universe punishing you, but now, perhaps it was simply the nature of things. Your reflection deepens, as if the Bodhi tree itself is urging you to empty your heart. In my world, people hide behind lies. Little lies to make life easier. Big lies to keep their power. We pretend to be better, kinder, stronger than we are, and yet the lies only make us smaller. The Buddha's eyes sharpened for the first time. Lies are a chain upon the mind. Each untruth binds you further, until you no longer see what is real. Truth cuts the chain. Even when painful, it opens the way to freedom. His words strike deep. You recall moments of silence, times you chose not to speak up, times you let dishonesty slide because it was easier than honesty. You think of the sting of being lied to, betrayal that leaves scars longer than wounds of flesh. The Buddha lets the silence stretch. Finally, he asks, "And cruelty, what of the sharpness of words?" You wince. Images flash of harsh comments hurled across glowing screens, anonymous cruelty that cuts without cost. You remember the times you joined in, laughing at someone's expense, not realizing until later that your words had teeth. In my world, people wound each other without lifting a hand. They wield words as weapons because it is easy and safe. They forget that behind the names and faces are hearts. We hurt each other more with words than with blades. The Buddha's eyes close briefly, as if in mourning. When he opens them again, his voice carries both sorrow and strength. Hatred is fire. It burns the one who throws it first. To answer cruelty with cruelty is to throw oil on flames. But to answer cruelty with compassion, that is water on the fire. The night deepens. As you feel as though your chest has been emptied, every hidden wound laid bare before him. Yet you do not feel ashamed. Instead, a lightness creeps in, like air rushing into a long-closed room. You draw a trembling breath. "I see now," you whisper, "that freedom doesn't come from running away. Not from money, not from fame, not from love, or even solitude. Freedom comes from seeing the world as it truly is, from knowing that everything changes, that nothing can be held forever, that peace is not escape, it is acceptance. The Buddha smiles faintly, as if a candle has been lit in the darkness. This is the middle way, neither clinging nor rejecting, not drowning in desire, nor fleeing into emptiness, walking awake moment by moment. You bow your head, overcome by the weight and clarity of it all. And then, slowly, you raise your eyes. "Can I walk this path?" you ask him softly. "In my world, full of distractions, full of fear, can I walk the middle way, or is it only for monks and seekers?" For the first time, the Buddha leans closer. His voice lowers, intimate, as if he speaks only to you. Each being has the same ground beneath their feet. The path is not a temple, nor a robe, nor a rule. It is choice, breath by breath. You need not leave your world. You need only awaken in it. The words land in you like seeds falling into soil. A long silence follows. The river hums. The Bodhi leaves rustle above. The world feels vast and tender, like a heartbeat. At last, the Buddha speaks again, not with instruction, but with a question that is not meant to be answered. "Will you see clearly?" The words echo, linger, dissolve. And you realize that the true teaching has never been about him at all. It has always been about you.
The night ebbs toward morning. A pale silver begins to creep into the horizon, soft as silk pulled across the sky. The crickets quiet one by one, as if some invisible hand turns down the volume of the earth. You feel the chill of dawn settle into your skin, the faint dampness of grass beneath your hands, the rustle of the Bodhi leaves overhead. The Buddha has not moved. He sits still as stone, yet alive as flame. His face, serene in the starlight, now takes on the gentlest glow of the approaching dawn. For the first time, you notice the weariness in his body. Bones that ache, skin stretched thin, the shadow of hunger. He is no god, no immortal. He is simply a man. And yet, he is more than a man. The one who was Siddhartha has dissolved into something vaster, something unshaken by hunger, by fear, by the weight of the world. You watch him breathe, slow and steady. A single breeze stirs the branches above. The Bodhi tree sways, leaves whispering like voices of the unseen. They do not shout, they do not command, they simply move with the air, and in their movement there is peace. The first bird calls, a lonely sound that slices the silence. Another answers. Soon the air fills with song, tentative, then bold, as if the whole forest were awakening in reverence. The Buddha opens his eyes. They are not eyes of triumph, nor of conquest. They are not eyes that say, "I have won." They are eyes that say, "I am free." He turns to you, and for a moment you feel as though the entire sky is looking through him into you. "There is nothing left to fear," he says quietly. "Not because the world has changed, but because I have." The words ripple through you, unsettling and comforting at once. You think of your own fears, losing those you love, failing in the eyes of others,
waking each day unsure of who you are supposed to be. Fear has always been a shadow behind you, whispering, run faster, earn more, prove yourself. But here, beside the Bodhi tree, you begin to wonder, what would life be without the constant chase? What if the shadow was only in your mind? The monks stir awake, rubbing their eyes, bowing their heads. Some weep silently, overcome by the moment. Others simply gaze, unable to speak. But the Buddha is not performing for them. He is not a king addressing his court. He is simply breathing, present, untouched by the storms of desire and doubt. You realize this is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of countless others. From here, words will travel, carried by voices across kingdoms, across centuries. One man's awakening will ripple into lives unborn. And somehow, you are part of that ripple. The light strengthens, the grass glistens with dew. The river carries its song into the morning, silver and endless. The Buddha rises slowly, his movements unhurried, as though time itself bends around his calm. He brushes the earth from his robes and rests a hand briefly on the trunk of the Bodhi tree. His touch is neither worship nor farewell. It is acknowledgement, gratitude without attachment. He looks at you once more. You came seeking answers, but answers are not freedom. Questions are not chains. See the world clearly, and chains fall away. He smiles, not the smile of victory, but of release. And then he turns toward the waiting world. You remain seated, your body rooted to the earth. The sky is now streaked with gold, and you feel lighter, not because your questions are solved, but because you no longer need them to be. You think of your life, its noise, its demands, its ceaseless race. For the first time, you wonder if you could step back, if you could walk through your days without clutching, without fleeing, if you could love without chaining, speak without harming, live without fearing. Could you walk the middle way? The thought is not a command. It is not even a challenge. It is an invitation. The Buddha's figure grows smaller as he walks, monks following in quiet reverence. The morning light catches on the folds of his robe until he seems almost to dissolve into the brightness, as if he were never separate from it at all. You are left beneath the Bodhi tree. The breeze continues to stir its leaves. The river continues to sing. The world continues as it always has. But something in you has shifted. You close your eyes. The sounds of dawn fill you. The birds, the insects, the rush of water. The ground beneath you feels steady, holding you up. For a moment, you are not chasing, not clinging, not afraid. You are simply here. And in that stillness, you feel it. Freedom, not as escape, but as presence. Not as victory, but as peace. When you open your eyes again, the sun has risen. The Bodhi tree sways in the morning breeze. And though you leave with more questions than answers, you rise lighter somehow, as if the weight you carried for so long has begun to loosen. You walk forward into the day, knowing the path will never be straight, never be easy. But now you also know it does not need to be. Because when the mind becomes free, even for a moment, the whole world opens.
The story closes, yet it lingers.
You can almost still hear the rustle of the Bodhi leaves, still feel the cool grass beneath your palms, still see the faint outline of a man rising with the dawn. Siddhartha Gautama, the seeker who sat down with nothing left to lose, walked away as the Buddha. But his awakening was not thunder and fire. It was not conquest or miracle. It was the simplest thing, and therefore the hardest. He saw clearly. He understood suffering, its causes, and its release. And in that clarity, the chains fell away. The monks who watched that morning carried his words into villages, into kingdoms, into centuries. The story rippled outward, from India across the mountains of Tibet, along the Silk Roads to China, across seas to Japan, down into Sri Lanka, through temples in Thailand, Cambodia, Burma, and beyond. The ripples reached libraries, courts, monasteries, and one day, your ears. The echo beneath the Bodhi tree has not gone silent. It has only changed its voice. And so, listener, what does this story leave with you? You live in another age, far from the banks of the Neranjara River. You do not sleep on reed mats or rise to the sound of jackals. Your struggles take other forms. But desire still coils in the human heart. Fear still whispers in the dark. The craving for recognition, wealth, control, love still drives people to chase shadows. And cruelty sometimes is as near as a careless word left online. Yet what the Buddha discovered remains. Freedom does not lie in fleeing the world, nor in conquering it. It lies in walking through it with eyes open, with hands unbound, with a heart that clings less tightly. The middle way was not meant only for monks or for another age. It was meant for anyone who suffers and who dares to ask why. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, ask yourself gently, where do I cling? What am I afraid to lose? And what might happen if, just for a breath, I let go? Not forever, not dramatically, just long enough to see the world as it is. Because in that single breath, something shifts, a window opens, a weight lifts, and you may discover, as a man beneath a tree once did, that freedom is not far away. The Bodhi tree sways in the wind, its leaves shimmer like quiet stars, and somewhere in its echo, across centuries, across cultures, across the long night of human longing, you hear a whisper. When the mind becomes free, the whole world becomes light.